Have you ever stopped to think why some people can learn a new skill in weeks, while others struggle for years and still feel stuck? Why one person can read a book once and remember it clearly, while another forgets almost everything by the next day? And what if I told you that the difference has nothing to do with intelligence, talent, or even effort, but instead is rooted in something far more uncomfortable for the very system that taught you how to learn in the first place? Because here's the truth. From the moment you stepped into a classroom, you were taught to memorize rather than to master. You were trained to pass tests instead of building real understanding. You were rewarded for repeating information instead of transforming it into personal power. And most people never realize this, as they grow up believing that learning is supposed to be slow, painful, and boring. But what if learning could feel addictive? What if it could feel like a game you can't stop playing? And what if there was a method that could turn confusion into clarity and struggle into unstoppable momentum? Today, I'm going to show you the learning method that top performers, elite athletes, and world-class thinkers use, even if they don't always talk about it openly. A method that doesn't just help you remember information, but actually rewires how your brain absorbs reality. And once you see it, you will never be able to unsee it. Let me tell you a quick story that reveals just how powerful this really is. There was a young man who failed every important exam in his life, whose teacher said he was an academic, whose classmates moved ahead while he stayed behind. But years later, he became one of the most influential thinkers in the world, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist named Richard Feynman. And his secret wasn't genius at all. It was a simple, brutal rule he followed every single time he tried to learn something new. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it. And that single sentence, which seems almost too basic to matter, actually hides a powerful weapon inside it. Because most people study by highlighting, rereading, and watching videos on 1.5x speed. And while it feels productive and looks productive, it's really an illusion, because you're recognizing information instead of owning it. You're becoming familiar with it instead of fluent in it, and your brain knows the difference even when you try to ignore it. The secret learning method is not about consuming more information. It's about producing more understanding. It's about turning every piece of knowledge into something you can use, explain, and apply in real life. And this is where this system breaks down. Because schools are built for efficiency, not for mastery. And they have to move forward whether you're truly ready or not. Here's the uncomfortable question that most people avoid asking themselves. When was the last time you tried to teach what you were learning to someone else? Not by sharing a link or sending a video, but by actually explaining it in your own words from scratch, as if the other person knew absolutely nothing about it. Because the moment you try to teach, your brain panics. It exposes the holes in your understanding, the fuzzy parts, the parts you thought you knew but actually don't. And that discomfort you feel in that moment is not a weakness at all. It's the doorway to real learning. This method is called active recall through simplification. But forget the name and remember the feeling. The feeling of taking something complex and turning it into something so simple that a child could understand it. Because that is the exact moment when learning becomes permanent. Let's make this real with a situation you can probably relate to. Imagine you're trying to learn how money works. Not just save and spend, but how wealth actually grows over time. So you read about stocks, interest, risk, and compounding. You watch videos, and you start to feel smarter. But then someone asks you a simple question like, so how does money make more money? And suddenly, you freeze. That's the moment that matters most. Because instead of going back to consume more information, you stop and build an explanation. You say, okay, imagine you plant a seed. That seed grows into a tree. That tree drops more seeds. And each seed becomes another tree. And in that moment, you turn abstract concepts into concrete images. You make them visual, you make them human, and in doing that, you don't just remember the idea, you actually become it. Here's why this works on a deeper level than most people realize. Your brain is not designed to store information like a hard drive. It's designed to solve problems, and when you passively read or watch, your brain stays in spectator mode. But when you explain, it switches into builder mode, where it has to organize, connect, and prioritize, and where it has to decide what actually matters and what doesn't. And this is why the people who rise to the top in almost any field often say the same strange thing. I really understood it when I had to teach it, whether they are doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs, or athletes, because they don't just practice their skills, they break them down, explain them, refine them, and turn instinct into clear structure. Now, here's the part most people completely miss. You don't need a student at all. You can teach an imaginary person. You can teach your phone camera. You can teach a blank wall, because your brain doesn't care who's listening. It only cares about the process. And the process is what creates the transformation. So here's the method, step by step, in a way you can actually use today. Step 1 is to choose one small concept. Not a whole chapter, not a whole skill, but one single piece that you can focus on for 10 minutes without feeling overwhelmed. Step 2 is to learn it like normal, by reading it, watching it, or listening to it, but without stopping there like most people do. Step 3 is to close everything. No notes, no screen, no help at all. Step 4 is to explain it out loud as if you're teaching a complete beginner, using simple words, clear examples, and small stories to make it come alive. Step 5 is to notice when you get stuck, because that moment is your signal. That exact spot is where you need to go back and study again. And then you repeat the loop. This loop looks simple, almost too simple to be powerful, but it's uncomfortable, and that discomfort is exactly why most people don't do it, because it forces you to face what you don't know instead of hiding behind what you think you know. But here's the twist that changes everything. Every time you face that gap and fill it, your confidence grows. Not fake confidence, but real confidence. The kind that comes from knowing you can break down anything. The kind that follows you into job interviews, conversations, and opportunities. Let me show you how powerful this really is with another real-world example. Think about someone learning a new language, where most people memorize words, phrases, and grammar rules, get stuck translating in their head, and freeze when it's time to speak. But the ones who become fluent faster do something different. They explain the language to themselves. They say things like, in this language, the verb comes first because the speaker wants to emphasize action, and instead of building a memory bank, they build a mental model. They don't just say the words, they understand the system behind the words. And once you understand the system, you can create instead of just repeat. Now, ask yourself this. Honestly, what system are you trying to learn right now? Whether it's your career, your finances, your health, or your relationships. And what if, instead of consuming endless content about it, you started explaining one small piece every single day, and in doing that, you slowly became the teacher of your own life? Here's where it gets even more interesting. Social media has trained us to scroll, to swipe, and to move on as fast as possible. And while we are drowning in information, we are actually starving for understanding. This method is the exact opposite of scrolling, because it's about stopping, slowing down, and going deep instead of wide. And that's why it feels so powerful, because in a world full of surface-level knowledge, depth becomes a real superpower. Let me ask you something personal. How many books have you read that changed your life for a week and then slowly faded away as if they never mattered? Now, imagine if you took just one idea from one of those books and spent an entire day explaining it, writing about it, talking about it, and applying it in your own life. That one idea would stay with you for years instead of days. This is how high performers think. They don't chase more information. They extract more value from less. Now, let's talk about why schools rarely teach this method. Because it's slow, it's messy, and it's deeply personal. You can easily grade answers, memorization, and speed. But you can't easily grade true understanding, because true understanding takes conversation, exploration, and time, and systems don't like time. But you're not a system, and this is where you get an unfair advantage over almost everyone else. You can design your own learning environment, and you can turn your bedroom into a classroom where curiosity is the rule instead of the exception. Here's a simple challenge. You can actually start today. For the next 7 days, pick one thing you're trying to learn, and at the end of each day, explain it out loud for 5 minutes, recording yourself if you want, not to post it anywhere, but just to listen to it. You will hear your growth. You will hear your clarity sharpen, and you will hear your confidence rise. And something else will happen that you might not expect. You will start to think differently. You will start to ask better questions. Instead of asking, what do I need to remember? You will start asking, what does this connect to? And instead of asking, will this be on the test? You will start asking, how can I use this in my life? And that shift changes everything, because learning stops being HR and starts becoming a powerful tool you can use to shape your future. Let me give you one more story to bring this all together. There's a reason some entrepreneurs can walk into almost any industry and succeed. And it's not because they already know everything. It's because they know how to learn anything. They break complex systems into simple pieces. They explain those pieces to their teams. They refine them, and they improve them over time. They don't wait to feel ready. They build readiness through action. And you can do the exact same thing. This method doesn't care where you start. It doesn't care about your past grades, your age, or your background. It only cares about one thing. Are you willing to sit with what you don't know and turn it into something you do? Because that is the real skill. Not memorization, not speed, but transformation. So here's the moment of truth. You can close this video and go back to scrolling, back to watching, and back to consuming. Or you can try this today by picking one idea, one concept, or one skill, and teaching it out loud to the wall, to your phone, or to yourself, and actually feeling the difference. Because once you experience what it's like to truly understand something, instead of just recognizing it, you won't want to go back. And if this opened your eyes even a little, imagine what a week of this could do. Imagine what a month could do. And imagine what a year could do. You wouldn't just be more knowledgeable. You would be more capable, more confident, and more dangerous in the best possible way. So don't save this for later, because later is where good intentions go to disappear. Do it today. And if you want more methods like this, more tools to turn your mind into your greatest asset, stay here, subscribe, and keep learning how to learn. Because the real secret isn't that schools don't want you to know this. It's that once you do, you don't need them anymore.